Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, hey there, I hope you're doing well and you are having a fantastic day, because we have a great show planned for you where if everything goes well and hopefully our guest is just running a little bit late, then hey, we are going to have none other than, Mr. Mike Cermak. So, and he is, of course, a longtime Computer America correspondent. Looking forward to having him on, and hopefully, again, he shows up. That would be great. But in the meantime, everyone, let's go ahead and just talk about this. ComputerAmerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including links to today's show. Whatever we end up doing, we'll have, of course, any links, any products, any articles, reviews, anything and everything right there for you, ready to go. So with let's see, there's also some recent product reviews. We have articles, we have op-eds, we have plenty of things like that. And then, of course, we also have the live video feed. If you feel like watching Computer America and not just listening, then hey, that would be the perfect, way for you to watch Computer America. After the show, obviously, everything becomes a podcast. You can definitely check that out after the fact. And yeah, so with that being said, Mr. Mike Cermak is unfortunately, and by unfortunately not here, I mean completely here. He definitely made it perfectly in time. So everyone, we're going to get started here in just a moment with Mike. And by the way, if you haven't heard of him, techguy.org is the site that he runs. It is one of the largest, kind of person-to-person forum for computer topics and for computer troubleshooting topics, that kind of thing. Oddly enough, that never gets old. There will always be problems with technology, just as much as, technology is, just going to stick around. So let's go ahead and bring him on. So everyone, Mike Cermak. So, and real quick, Mike, I got to actually do something here real quick and unmute that. Perfect. Can you hear me? I can hear you just fine. Perfect. Well, actually, I take that back. I messed something up in my end. So just 1 second. I'm going to change your speakers over to, let's see, this one, I believe. All right, perfect. Now try again.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hey, there we go.
Sweet. How are you doing today?
Man, I am sick as a dog. It is.
I'm so sorry to hear that. My daughter is sick too.
Yeah, that's. I'm as sick as a daughter. Then it's. This cold has taken me like 3 or 4 or even like 5 days to overcome. It is not a pretty picture, but hey, we're getting there.
That.
Yeah, luckily, and I was just talking about this with my family. We got back from CES in like kind of beginning of January, like the 13th or 14th, something like that. And I think the coronavirus takes 2 weeks to really show.
Oh no!
So it's not that. I was hanging around to people from all over from all over the world, and it would have totally been a possibility. There were a lot of Chinese companies and businesses out there.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's really not fun. So follow-up question, is it possible to get that over video chat? Is that
Uh,
contagious?
Well, you would be the expert about getting viruses over video chat, but no, actually not that particular one, luckily.
Woof.
Funny, I actually saw there was actually an article, trying to explain why Zoom, which is actually what we're currently using, why Zoom has like their stock shot up like 13, 14, 15%. And everyone was like, why is this happening? Zoom said that because essentially in China in particular, people are looking for solutions to video conference and have meetings virtually, as opposed to like they completely could show up face to face, but they'd rather sit behind a screen and be protected and not not have to worry about germs. So
I generally don't like to interact with people when I can avoid it. So the more steps in between me and humans, the better. But especially when there's something nasty going around.
absolutely, yeah, and I would say that this cold going around is definitely one of those nasty things. But Mike, I'm happy that you're here, and just real quick, why don't we go ahead and give everyone a quick introduction of, again, techguy.org.
Yeah, absolutely. So techguy.org's been around the web for a very long time. I have to go back and look. Is it 1994 that we started it or thereabouts? And I have it on the website. Yeah, 1996. I was so close. It was forever ago. It's kids these days. They don't even remember the internet back then. We were one of the first tech support forums where people could go in and post questions and do so for free. It's still free. Everything on there is free. It's supported by ads and sponsors. So go in there, ask a question. We've got special boards there for networking and for web development and for Windows 10, of course, and anything you'd want to talk about. There's people in there talking about computers and trying to help one another with computer problems. Everyone's a volunteer, and it's just a great community of people.
Exactly. And of course, if you go to computeramerica.com, if you're looking for tech support, because we try to do it on the air whenever we can, but at the same time, we usually just direct people to techguy.org. So there you go. And then, of course, Mike himself coming on the show once a month, usually the first Wednesday of every month. That will be, we have really evolved our segments to just be, kind of current events and catching up and really talking about what's happening in the tech space and, really just having fun with the news.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you still have me, even after all these years.
Absolutely. Well, hey, it's, I don't want to rank my correspondence, but you are tied with everyone else as the best. So it's yeah.
Which one is your favorite kid?
You can't say that, but there's the thing, you do have one. You can't say it though. So I will say that as I said before, computeramerica.com. If you want to link to anything that we are going to be talking about today, lots of different articles that we can definitely discuss. I have a slew of them myself, Mike. So I'm going to throw those at you. Kind of indirectly, but I think
I'm up for it.
I think a good place to start would be this first sentence that you sent in this email, and it has to do with electric chargers and, much like many other public utilities, ones that are kind of open for, open for free use, open for the public to use. There will be people who obviously think of things like think about things like a recycling bin or a drinking fountain. Some people just either overuse, they don't use it, with discretion, and they damage it, they end up hurting it, or they just.
People abuse things. You give someone something for free, and there's always a small percent of people who just ruin it for everyone else.
They do indeed, and that, of course, brings me to my point where electric vehicle chargers, many of them are set up, and I think that's, of course, with Tesla and their superchargers, they implemented like a very small fee just to keep people from, I guess, staying parked at them all day long or something like that.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly right. That's a good comparison, Ben. So that was a problem, is that people at the Tesla superchargers would go and park and plug in and sit there for, an hour to charge up. But then some people just leave it there, essentially blocking that charger for a day or two.
Treating it like a parking space. Yeah,
they really were. And which is not what it's meant for. But more importantly, then that means other people who need to use that can't.
Yeah,
So
and
that's what they started doing. That was a little controversial, is that now people have to go in and you get an alert on your phone when, that your car is almost done charging, be sure to go to move it, and then you get an alert that your car is done charging, move it within 5 minutes, or you're gonna start being charged a fee per minute that it sits there blocking the charger, which seems very reasonable to me, but, I know a lot of people who are not happy about that.
well, yeah, and really, like, I think that the reason that people were mad about it was that they, when you first bought your Tesla way back when, that was one of Elon Musk's promises is that you get free electric vehicle charging at
Mhm.
any of Tesla's branded superchargers.
Mhm.
That kind of came with the package. It's like, oh, look, free power. But like you said, abuse, and it, it's almost like, let's see, there was, I think it was Google Drive, or no, I think it was Dropbox. It was Dropbox that said you could have like unlimited kind of uploads and storage and that kind of thing, or maybe it was Google. It was one of these services that offered cloud storage, and 99.99% of people were perfectly, they were using it as intended, as a general consumer would.
Right.
But then there was that 0.001 or 0.0000001 who were really storing terabyte and really almost petabytes of information up in the cloud, because when they heard unlimited storage, and I'm thinking about it, it might have been Dropbox that had like quote unquote unlimited, and they were really testing the bounds of what unlimited meant. And then of course they came back and said, well, hey, you can store up to like 15 terabytes, which is still massive. And I'm sure that over time Dropbox has kind of come down on that. But again, it's the idea that if you say unlimited, there's going to be someone out there going, let's test that.
Right. And you almost have to count for that. But yeah, so in my case, I'm not a Google or Amazon or Dropbox. I'm Mike and cheap at that. But what I did, I bought my Tesla about 5 years ago, and at that time there were not a lot of charging stations around. Today there's many, many more, but at that time there were very, very few. And so at my offices in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, and Hagerstown, Maryland, we put in EV chargers and made them available to the public. There's an app that most people who have an EV use called PlugShare,
Yeah.
where you can go in and see a map of all the charging places around you and availability and ratings on them and how reliable they are and all sorts of things like that. And so we put them up on there and said they're available for free for public use. If you're traveling through the area and need to charge, stop by and charge. And we've had a lot of people use it and a lot of wonderful thank you messages and things about it. But after 5 years, we have someone now who's abusing it and will just come and charge there almost every day, to the extent where no one else can use it. So I toyed with the idea of just saying, no more public charging. It's now for, our company and approved use only, or something like that.
Right.
And tried to think of a clever way of, enforcing that, putting some sort of key with a relay or something onto the EV charger. I surely didn't want to have to go into the utility room and actually flip a breaker every time I want to use it, or someone else
Right.
wants to use it. So I'm scratching my head about this, and what I ended up doing is I've got a little relay that connects over the internet. It's there's a lot of neat ones out there. The one I happen to pick is called a Shelly, Shelly, and I'm not affiliated with them. It's just one that had a good rating on Amazon and looks like it did what I needed it to do. And it was $25 for two of them. And they're these tiny little relays. They almost look like, I don't know, like $6 half dollars stacked on top of one another. I mean, it's a little thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, there you go. You're getting the page up. So this is the Shelly one I ended up using. And what it is you just put power into it, and you have two contacts where you can, make or break the connection, and it has Wi-Fi built into it, and it connects out to a cloud server. So I was able to write a little bit of code that could then remotely turn that relay on or off. And I thought, well, this is great. Now I can turn it on or off from my phone, and this is perfect. But then, me being the tech guy I am, and always looking for excuses to make things more complicated than necessary, I went, and there's a site called Twilio where you can write programs that work with voice or work with SMS. And let me see here. Is it
TWILIO?
You got it. That's
One
it.
L?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 1L. That's it. And so in that, and it's super cheap. Yeah, that's it. You can write programs that can handle SMS messaging. So what I ended up doing, Ben, I'm so proud of it, and it's ridiculously complicated for for my needs. But what I ended up doing is we made a rule saying you can only use the charger 3 times in a month. So if someone's visiting from out of town for a weekend, they can use it every day for all I care. But for the average person around here, like once a week or so you can use it, but we're actually going to be able to limit it. So I have a sign there now that says to turn on the charger, send a text message to this number. And when you do it, it says, all right, are you ready to turn on the charger? You get 3 uses a month, and you type in yes, and it sends the message to my relay and kicks on my relay and then writes it to a database that says, all right, this phone number turned on the relay at this day and time. And so I have a little program I wrote to actually enforce it for me. So you can come up, Ben, and send a text message to this number and turn on my EV charger, but you can only do it 3 times every 30 days, and then it automatically resets. And I love
it. And really, if you wanted to get even more, kind of in depth, and then of course at this point, I think you might actually be starting a brand new business. If after 3 uses, someone wanted to, through, I would assume through like PayPal or something, say, deposit $1 and you get an hour of charging or something like that.
Yeah, could totally do something like that. Absolutely.
And again, this was to solve a problem of someone using this essentially daily.
Right.
So,
and I want it to be available to the public because I love seeing, it's helping people out and it's a convenience to people, but it's just that small percentage of people that abuse it and ruin it for others.
So, but really, I like your solution, and we're going to include Shelly and Twilio in the show notes after the show, because honestly, stuff like this is like compared to, you mentioned back in '96 when you first started TechOut.org and the internet back in the day. I mean, compared to what it used to be, and now to be able to do this on your own, and I don't know how long you would say that this would take you, but kind of in your spare time, you're able to.
It really was in my spare time. I went down there. I was down at the Hagerstown office. It probably took me an hour to figure out how to open it up and how I was going to wire it all up and wire the thing up. But then I was just sitting at home last night and the night before. This is very new. I just did this last night, and was sitting at home and wrote the program while I'm sitting there watching TV with my wife. And it's like, this is so freaking cool. Like, I wish I could come up with something to do like that where I could actually like make $1 million instead of just entertain myself. There's got to be some opportunity. We have so many tools out there. There's so many great things that everyone can do. You just need to come up with some clever ideas, and that's where I kind of fail. But it's a lot of fun, and it's amazing what all is available out there.
Trust me, go to CES, see what's out there, and you're gonna say, man, everyone's just connecting. Like, I really do feel like people are walking around their homes and they're going, that's not connected. That's not. And at some point, your finger lands on your cat's litter box, and you go, we got to connect that. And then it goes to your dog's,
water dish.
Yeah, your dog's water dish, or you go to your front door. And of course, some things are $1 billion ideas, like your front doorbell, camera, peephole, things like that. So, what's actually going to be the next big thing? Who knows? But I feel like that's how it happens sometimes. So, by the way, looking through all this, you've been such a big, I guess kind of advocate for Raspberry Pi and all these other kind of low-cost computers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would say that something like Shelly, much, much more simple than a full-blown computer, was all you needed in this case? Like, you didn't need a Raspberry Pi to tie in somewhere?
Absolutely. Well, and I considered that, but with the Raspberry Pi, you'd then have to build, use a breakout board or get a daughter board or something onto it in order to get relays to be able to pull this load.
Oh, true.
This little Shelly has the relays built right into it, and it's what's the board that they use on those? It's a standard open source board, so you can actually make your own firmware to put on it. Boy, it's just not coming to me right now. I'll look it up and tell you, because a lot of the people, if you're geek enough to dig into the Raspberry Pis and so on. Yeah, it's an ESP8266. So it's an ESP. Yeah, well, and you're making fun of me, but there's probably a lot of nerds out there who are familiar with the ESP series, and you can code for that. You can write your own programs to do things on it. But what's nice is out of the box, it has its own cloud service that it uses, and I just use that. But you could certainly use whatever you want if you don't want to trust a third party. And it's just a nice little clean piece of hardware that you can stick just about anywhere. It's so and it works just so well for this particular job. I'm just real pleased with it.
And the other thing, like, I'm trying to find uses in my everyday life for automation. I think automation and really services. I'm not sure if you've heard of one called Zapier. That's one that I use here for the show. Such as when someone submits an email, to be a guest on the show, we have, kind of like a pre-formatted form that they fill out, and then Zapier will take the form and the entries and just copy and paste it into my calendar, with the appropriate fields. Just save those 3 minutes of my life, doing that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, and little things of automation like that, and again, it doesn't cost me anything. I'm not I'm not a paid supporter of Zapier or anything like that, but it just kind of works. And I'm wondering with Twilio, have you found any other uses for just kind of everyday automation?
No, I think there's so much more opportunity out there. So I haven't done much with Twilio. We do phone systems as part of my day job and do SIP servers and voice over IP and things like that. And I've been trying to find an excuse to play with Twilio, and now I finally found one. And it's just super cheap and very flexible. You can have it do just about anything you want. But this is the first time I've done anything with it. But you can write little chatbots in there so that it'll respond to your SMS messages however you want and take orders and then send them over to your site and process it into a backend database or whatever you want it to do. And it doesn't even have to be just SMS. You can actually do the same thing with voice. And so I could easily just write a little script to do exactly the same thing. You could call in and it could ask you, and it has voice recognition as well, just like a lot of major IVRs now. And it could ask you, welcome to the office here. Do you want to turn on the charger now? And you could say yes, and say just a minute, and it'll turn it on. And it's brilliant. I love it. And yeah. All of these tools are out there and so inexpensive now. We live in a time where this, capabilities and tools and technology are just at our fingertips. If only we could come up with the next great idea of what to do with it.
Well, and hey, it might even be something as simple as a separate service that would integrate with all of them. Like that, even something as simple as that would kind of do you. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I will say that, kind of looking through this, unfortunately, probably not for my uses. Although I will say that they, I guess, make a service called Authy, and it's a third-party authenticator kind of deal. So I have heard of Authy. That is a
and at Twilio, a lot of programs use Twilio to be able to send their two-factor authentication messages out. Whenever you go to your bank's website and it says you send you the message, the SMS with the code to type in.
Right.
The back end of a lot of websites use Twilio, and if not them, one of their competitors. So it's really a big, well-known company.
Cool. So that's, of course, that's our first topic there was just, this EV charger. And really, like we said at the end of the day, we're happy that, I take it back. You're probably happy that you get to continue to provide that electric charger for just everybody because, that does make the world a little bit better.
I like that solution so much better than having to just cut it off for everyone. So it made me happy, but it gave me an excuse to be a geek and play around with some things. And it was a lot of fun.
Perfect.
And
So again, we'll go ahead and I'll even throw Zapier in the show links as well. So we're gonna put all that up in the show notes. Now, the next one, and like I said, automation's great. Without having to think, you're good to go. But our next topic, Elon Musk, and well, this one you have to think, but that should hopefully be the extent to which your input, kind of requires. Is just you thinking about something and instantly your computer or your application or something happens in response to your thinking. It's very very science fiction. It's being able to interface with technology just through thinking. And we've had technology and like the reason why this isn't just kind of thrown as science fiction, kind of malarkey out the window is because we've been able to do that to some extent using EKGs and, those giant mesh, headsets that they use in laboratories to detect very minute electrical currents within the brain. And, that and that can be used for inputs. That's also one of the ways that, let's say, people who are fully paralyzed are able to communicate just by thinking or moving their eyes, or very, very subtle inputs. Computers are very good at picking up very subtle inputs and then doing something in response. So Elon Musk, it wouldn't be a show with you without talking about Elon Musk.
I know, it was a requirement.
Right, to some extent. And this is one of his, and just to ramble off a few here, let's see, there's the Boring Company, which does, underground tunnels. There's SpaceX, which of course is launching all the satellites and of course is just rockets in general. There's now Neuralink, which is one of the companies that really has not made all that, gotten all that much attention. And then of course you have other things like Solar City and of course Tesla, their car company. He has a lot of side projects going, and this is one that
I don't understand how he's doing so much. Like, I can barely get the energy to get up in the morning, and he's like coming up with these side projects of drilling tunnels and solving all of humanity's problems.
To me, it's more amazing that he's able to get up and do all these projects with essentially almost every technologist out there and everyone who has a voice in the media saying this guy's crazy.
Yeah, that'll never work.
That'll never work. And yet, he comes back time and time again going, it didn't work as well as I wanted to the first time. We can make it better. And over 10 years, he finally comes out with something better. And as I said before, this is one of his side projects that hasn't really come to market yet, but he's still pushing for it. Like, he didn't just, like, I guess he didn't do the Google thing, which is come out with it in open beta, let it, kind of fester for a year and then close it down and just, hopefully no one ever talks about it again. No, he's still pushing for this. So let's go ahead and throw the article up here. You can see the interface, how this will look on people. Maybe might need to shave a couple spots in your head, but or no. This is an implant. I take that back. This is something certainly different. So talk about this article, what caught your attention about this, and let's talk about the feasibility of, implanting things into your head to control your computers.
Yeah, right. So what didn't catch my attention about this? That's exactly right. So it's an implant that they're planning on putting into your brain between the different synapses inside your brain. And it's each little wire that goes down to it is about 1/10 of the width of a human hair. So it's very precise, and they have this machine that sticks it down into your brain. It looks like almost like a sewing machine, just pushing them down into your. It's ridiculous, and going to be so cool when it inevitably happens.
I like how you say that's a foregone conclusion. It's going to happen. It's just when.
Well, and whether they do it or someone else does, everyone I think knows this sort of thing is down the line eventually, but not without their risks. Of course, I mean, I'm not going to be the first one to sign up to do it. I'm going to volunteer Ben for that position, but but they say it's super safe and easy to use. And
may give you a headache.
Yeah, right. But so they're talking about they made a big announcement. I don't know when the Neuralink announcement came out. What was that, a year ago, something like that? And just recently, Elon sent out a tweet, as he tends to do, and saying that they're going to be making another big announcement soon, and that it's, quote, awesome. Actually, not just, quote, awesome. It has awesome with stars on each side, with asterisks on each side. It's that awesome. They're hoping that it's going to be ultimately used to be able to make up for lost sections of the brain due to strokes or accidents or other issues.
So, and of course, for everyone watching the video portion, we actually have, this is a joke, by the way, don't take it the wrong way. We actually have an early beta test of what this was going to look like. And let's go ahead and throw that up on the screen. Yeah, it's things are going to go really, really well. And for those of you who can't see, it's just simply Ren and Stimpy with the mind control helmet, to make him think different things and, of course, just be happy. But I think that there are some very important benefits to what he's saying, and I think the language that he put here, let's see, they have a quote here from Elon Musk saying the profound impact of high bandwidth, and I think that might be the bigger part of it, because like I mentioned, we could measure the brain signals and be able to do something with that, but I think to him, high bandwidth is the key part to this. It's not just, think really hard and one little thing happens. It's going to be that constant traffic of maybe controlling an arm, that's completely on the other side of the room, and you control every little aspect of it like you would your actual physical arm. You need that constant back and forth communication, that bandwidth. So high bandwidth, high precision neural interfaces is underappreciated. Neuralink may have this in humans as soon as this year. And of course, wait until you see the next version versus what was presented this year. And as you said, it's awesome. As you just said, that high bandwidth, I'm curious what is possible when you have that constant signal back and forth.
Well, just like we were talking about, the possibilities here are just kind of shocking to think about.
Do you think something like this would be and really, I think about other implants that have made news in tech, and the only other instance I can really think of, there was some stupid legislation that was passed in like Utah or something like that, where and I'm saying the legislation is stupid. I'm not saying Utah is stupid, but the legislation said that employees cannot be forced to receive implants as a term of employment, as in, let's say a security, as a security measure, this one tech firm wanted to implant a little chip in people's wrists. And that would be their security measure. It's not a badge you can steal. It's not a picture you can fake. It was a little implant in someone's wrist. And that was going to be the way that people could gain access to the building and secure premises. And essentially, they passed legislation saying that if someone didn't want to be essentially chipped, they could not fire them for not wanting that kind of implant. Do you think that implants are going to become, kind of a thing? Because in some cases, I can see where people would be, completely for it, but I hate the slippery slope argument. It's just the one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I actually had an interesting conversation over the weekend with a friend of mine who is of a unusual religion. They're German Baptist, which is somewhat similar to
Southern.
They're often not at all. They're often compared to Mennonites or Amish. They're plain folks and don't use an awful lot of technology in the ways
that would make sense for the area you're in. I get
it is in Pennsylvania here. Imagine that. But in any event, what they were talking about, a lot of people within their church and similar ones have concerns about the internet in general, about their understanding of some biblical principles as far as the mark of the devil and being, connected in order to do commerce and these sort of things. And some people view that as the internet, and some are discussing, of course, that as far as implants go. And so he was asking me, he's like, "What's your feeling on implants?" I was like, "Well, I got mine here the other day," and you should have seen his face. I was like, "No, I'm just kidding. I haven't done that. First of all, I'm scared of needles and blood, so that's going to be a far time before I do that." But I have been reading articles and seeing videos of people who have had implants put in, including the ESP chips, like we were just discussing with the Shelly relay, where they embed a little computer into their body, not just an RFID chip, but like a little computer with a processor that can do things. Of course, the usefulness of that I'm not quite sure of yet. In the case of RFID, I could see it as useful, or NFC. I could see potentially people walking up to Starbucks.
Just jump in here. I would say that full-blown computers would be helpful for situations where, let's say, pacemakers. We have these implants that are already kind of very, very standard, and we've been talking about this idea of internet connected, let's say, pacemaker, and the danger of, let's say, someone getting access to that they shouldn't, and essentially messing up, let's say, their insulin injection, because I know that they have like implanted insulin devices.
One of those, right?
Things like that, and maybe a full-blown computer. And I'm not saying like a like a giant NASA server or something like that, but an actual computer might have enough intelligence, as opposed to just like a wireless on-off switch, might have enough intelligence to really vet the source of the input and potentially make those safer. So, I mean, everything that's a switch could become a computer.
Yeah, right. That's possible. And my concerns as far as like I could see the NFC being useful. You walk into Starbucks, present your hand to be able to pay rather than
Yeah.
having to use your watch. Or, we have RFID readers on all of our buildings to use for the door latches.
Hmm.
You walk up and present your card to open the door, and instead you could just present your hand. But I was telling my friend, part of my concern with it though is, mugging will take on a whole different meaning whenever, someone catches me in the alley and wants that chip out of my hand to be able to go open the doors and pay for things as me, and just cut my hand off. And I don't know, I don't see. And the other problem is maintenance and troubleshooting and upgrading. If it's actually embedded in me, you're going to have to dig that out every couple years to replace it with the new model, with the new version. And I don't know, man. I'm pretty happy with my watch.
I think that you could say that let's say a mugger gets you in the back alley, and then the next day you could say a mugger got me for an arm and a leg, and he said, "Wow, you took everything." And no,
that sounds like
actually,
a Craig joke.
Actually, got you for an arm and a leg. Yeah, well, yeah, he rubs off on me, but I will say though that. Like I said, anything that's currently a switch will probably become a full-blown computer. And as you said before with Elon Musk and how he's thinking about this, because like we've said this about Elon Musk before, love him or hate him, even if it's something that's like, why is he doing this? He has no chance of this. He being Elon Musk has a higher purpose. And that sounds so religious. A higher purpose for everything that he does, and of course, like let's take SpaceX. He foresees a future where we go to Mars, and of course, we need reusable rockets if we're going to make space travel feasible. So he believes that people will live on Mars. Solar energy, he believes that to be the next source of energy. Electric vehicles, and of course, batteries. You gotta have that to power the future. I think that Neuralink is one of those where we're thinking of like the business applications and like, in a business setting, but much like he said here in this quote, saying that's for stroke, accident, and congenital diseases. He may be trying to put a business spin on it, but at its core, it's solving some real problems that I guess he feels aren't truly being addressed by the market.
I think he's trying to save all of us.
Against our will?
If necessary.
Absolutely. So but yeah, it's I look forward to this. Of course, I think that and Mike, since you've been on, we have talked about prosthetics in the past. And I think even the prosthetics of today, like if people have not been paying attention, they're getting super good. I mean, even just the ones that, like, let's say someone's missing an arm, they can fit them to the rest of the arm. And due to the muscles that are still there, they're able to kind of twitch the muscles and, in their arm. And it immediately responds with actual hand movement. So I guess it's taking, something that's already currently way better than it was 5-10 years ago. And he wants to take it to the next step where, hey, you can fill in the holes. You could give someone a fully working prosthetic arm, leg, anything else, and really fill in those gaps. So
well, and that's absolutely right. But even further than that, you could imagine people who have other disabilities, including part of the brain not working, and being able to replace some of that capability with a computer, or as you said, with communication. If you can't speak or hear, or so many different options. It's fascinating to try and really imagine where this could lead us in 20 or 50 years.
And according to the markets, hey, maybe less than that. I don't know if you've been following that, but Tesla stock and all that good stuff.
Oh, have I ever? I own some. It's a roller coaster ride, man. I don't even know what to think.
Who needs drugs when you can just open up your app and see that? I mean,
can you just send me an SMS whenever it's time for me to sell? If you could have sent me a message yesterday, that would have been awesome, like 24 hours ago.
But why would you sell yesterday? They were only up, and for people who have not been paying attention to Tesla stock, they were only up almost 500% in 6 months.
Oh
You would
my.
never know. You would never
You would
know.
never know. And yeah, it's insane. And it just looked like it was going to keep going forever.
Yeah.
And so you just never know. And it's down again, what, like 20% today? How far are we down today?
It's such a wild ride, and hey, I think that's again part of the fun of Elon Musk. He let's see, I think, and we had another correspondent on the show that said that the rise was due to his mixtape that he released. So
I don't think that's it.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't it.
It could have been though. We don't know. We don't know the reason for the astronomical rise. But I will say that Neuralink, it's going to be one of those projects, kind of like the Boring Company, kind of like Solar City. It's a side project, but one that, of course, has a lot of promise. So, with that being said,
Much more promise than the mixtape.
well, I did not say that. Do not quote me on that. But I will say that this next one, and Rivian, I actually have their business card somewhere in my.
Were they at CES?
They were showing.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, they were showing off their new truck that they were.
Yeah.
And, like, I think that's the thing about like electric vehicles in general. I mean, of course, Elon Musk and Tesla showed off their Cybertruck. We talked about that. Electric vehicles in general, and most of the electric vehicle companies that we saw out at CES, they all wanted to show a rugged side to electric vehicles, because
Right.
I guess there's like this, and you know, obviously with your Tesla purchase 5 years ago, even back then, Elon Musk and Tesla changed the view that I'm thinking things like the Toyota Prius, which was of course a hybrid.
I had
but,
one of those.
yeah, but people saw electric vehicles as kind of dinky.
Yeah.
You know, they were great for the environment, but they weren't great for much else. And
Right.
then, of course, Tesla made it sexy with the Roadster and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
And they had that, view. I've often said that it was at that time people didn't think electric vehicles could be sexy or could go long distances or could be fast.
Right.
And Tesla came in and just like blew that all out of the water. That yes, you can take road trips in an electric car. Yes, you can get on the highway. People ask me that, Ben, all the time when I got an electric
Could you
car.
get on the highway?
Can you get on the highway with an electric car? Yeah, no, it's not a problem. But and today people understand that Teslas are fast, but at that time they thought it was
Yeah.
a go-kart. They didn't know. I've told this before, but whenever I got it, I drove over to my mother-in-law's a couple days later, and she came out to look at it, and she says, "Well, that looks like a real car." I was like, well, "Yes, it's because she thought
It drives like a real car too.
It's but that was the perspective not that long ago, and it's hard for people to remember because it's really changed in a short period of time, and it's going to continue to.
So, and that's where the conversation is kind of heading now. But luckily, it's not just Tesla. Although, again, with their Cybertruck, they're trying to. Rivian, another one now. Where this article's mentioning the R1T electric pickup, and I think others like Jeep actually said that they're coming out with an all electric vehicle. And really, every car manufacturer out there is coming out with some sort of electric vehicle. Right. Even the likes of Ford and GMC, they are coming out with an all-electric pickup truck as well. The next change and shift in that conversation is electric vehicles are also can also do rugged, heavy-duty type jobs, because that has not been established yet, but that's where we're going.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just a matter of time. We're going to be seeing more and more electric vehicles of all kinds much faster than most people realize.
So this article here, Amazon and Rivian dish details on their next electric delivery van. And hey, even if it's not glamorous, I would say one of the most rugged applications for a car is just constant city driving and really package delivery. It's something really impressive. So talk about this. What caught you about this? Was it just the fact that Amazon is more heavily investing in electric vehicle companies?
Yeah, well, Amazon's been a big investor in Rivian for quite a while, and that's part of the reason people started giving Rivian any attention, is that Amazon was taking them seriously, so maybe we should too. And of course, as you know, they have the upcoming pickup truck and also an SUV that I think both are going to start around $70,000, and both come out. Is it this year? And I think it's next year. They're
probably
supposed
next
to
year.
start shipping those, I think. But anyhow, as well, next year, they've announced that they're going to be starting to build these electric delivery vans for Amazon. which seems like a lot of products for a new company to be starting to push out all the same year. So it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out. But as you know, Amazon is doing more and more of their last final mile deliveries themselves instead of using USPS or FedEx or UPS to deliver. In a lot of areas, especially if you're in a more populated area than where I live, they have Amazon employees, or I should say not employees, but contractors
Yeah.
who will very often be the ones who deliver it the final mile to your doorstep. And so going down that path, they're looking at other delivery vehicles, and it seems like a great use for an electric vehicle for short, for deliveries like that. It doesn't have to go on the highway very often. It's mostly going to be going slow between stops. It's going to be able to charge all night back at the delivery depot.
Hmm.
It seems like a perfect opportunity to use an electric vehicle. And so Rivian is designing and planning to build these electric vans for Amazon to use. They say that they're going to hit the road next year in 2021 with 10,000 of these vans, and then a total of 100,000 of them will be on the roads before 2030.
I am such a small brained individual when it comes to numbers, and is that a lot or is that a little when it comes to fleet management? Because don't get me wrong, 100,000 cars sounds like a lot. I have no idea how many vehicles UPS or FedEx employ in their fleets.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that either. I'll bet that it's
Oh,
I don't
of course.
many more. Now, if you look at just the delivery vans as opposed to all the other type of vehicles and trucks they have, even still, I'll bet they have, I don't know.
By the way, when you type into Google, wow, actually take that back. When you type into Google, how many vehicles does, and then I was going to finish the sentence. Google auto complete. I guess people search it enough. How many vehicles does Jay Leno own? That is the answer to the autocomplete. But by the way, it actually, I'm surprised at this. FedEx owns about 1,000 vehicles. FedEx operates more than 100,000. FedEx operates more than 100,000 vehicles in its express division, according to the company's website. So, FedEx, of course, express shipping, 100,000. So, yeah, 100,000 vehicles.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And what's even more is to consider a new company like Rivian building that many vehicles right away, and they're for the first year of them actually developing
10,000, yeah.
10,000 of them. That seems like, I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, I don't remember how many Tesla made in their first year or two of manufacturing, but it's a lot to take on. I hope it works for them. I am a Tesla fanboy. I can't deny that. But I do want to see more competition. I do want to see Rivian succeed. I do want to see other car manufacturers finally wake up and start building more EVs in earnest. But I'm just a little hesitant about their scale, because they should probably take a tip from Tesla, because Tesla always hit all of their delivery targets. That's my memory of it.
Their production schedule has shifted, but usually when they set a target, they usually hit it. They like to overpromise, deliver on the mark, and potentially even exceed the mark. But even if that mark isn't what investors or people say that it should be, they've always been conservative with promising what they can, but then very ambitious saying what they will do. So,
right.
Yeah. So hey, Rivian, same thing, and I guess 100,000, of course, by 2030 in 10 years, a fleet that would rival that of current FedEx and of course UPS. So very impressive if they can get that to work. Now, Mike, I'm assuming that you can see the video portion.
I do. Yep.
All right. So everyone else out there who can, you're in luck. For all you radio listeners, we're just going to describe it. There's a video here. This article coming from TechSpot, and it's a particular YouTuber who is using really. There's a term for what it's called, and they're just using AI and machine learning interchangeably, but really it's about using it's like predictive technology, where they're like, this pixel is right here and we know in the next frame it's going to be here. So they're taking something that's currently 20 frames per second, and then they're using this technology to turn it into 60 frames per second. The technology is not perfect, and of course, anyone out there watching, we're going to go ahead and play this right now. And yep, there we go. So this is a very, very old-timey movie. This is the, let's see, I think it's called, The Arrival of a Train at La Ciotat, or whatever it is. And it's one of the first movies shot. It's from like 1896. And they're able to turn this footage from 1896 into 4K 60 FPS as opposed to its current format of like, I want to say it's like it's like 640 by 480. I think that makes it like 320p or something like that. And it's 20 frames per second. So they're able to essentially upscale it.
What was the frames per second originally, did you say?
20 frames per second.
Wow, that's a weird format, but...
Well, and of course, cinema today still uses, I think, like the 24 frames per second. I think 48 is getting some traction, but 24 was, for the longest time. And I got to say that it looks, and of course, Mike, you can see it yourself. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good.
Interesting.
So So for people wondering why this technology isn't more widely used, and there's actually a part in this, I'm going to try to slow it down, but really, again, what it does is it has two endpoints saying that, the pixel's here, and then in the next image, the pixel's here. And it tries to splice in added information just by conjecture. So one problem I'm going to show here on the video, and let's see, I think there's a way to like play it at like half speed. Like right here. Okay. So if you're watching the video portion and there's an image where this lady is, or I should say it's like a gentleman who's carrying a bag in front of, it's like right here, this gentleman carrying a bag, and I'm going to, let's slow it down here a little bit. If you slow it down and you kind of look, the computer can't really tell that the bag is coming in from the side and it's going to go in front. So it almost looks like the bag is like going through this gentleman's leg when clearly it's not. But the computer, didn't really see that happening. So you get this weird visual effect. And Mike, I'm not sure if you can see it there with his leg. But the bag almost looks like it's like kind of going through his leg a little bit there.
Yep, definitely.
So, it's an interesting technology, and this is really what kind of upscaling does as well. But I found it a good use for the technology. I'm not sure if you heard about the old, it's like a Peter Jackson. It's been making the rounds at film festival. I think it had like a limited release. It was about World War I and restoring footage from World War I. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't.
Man, what was that called? I think it was like As They Were. Let's see, Peter Jackson.
This reminds me, while you're looking that up, of
They Shall Not Grow. They Shall Not Grow Old. By the way,
that sounds familiar.
Yeah. That was just released in 2018, and essentially he used the same kind of technology to turn that that really old-fashioned footage. I'm not sure if you've kind of seen really old footage.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Everyone kind of looks sped up. They look kind of jittery, and he used the same kind of technology to make really smooth it out, take out the jitters, and of course colorize it to make it look like it was shot today.
Yep, I have heard of that.
Yep. So yeah.
But this is a little controversial because it reminds me of the motion smoothing and what was the other term for motion smoothing?
Interpolating or interpolarizing or interpolating, I think.
Interpolating, there you go.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what this is. Exactly as you described.
That is exactly what it is. I could not find the term for it.
Yeah, I couldn't. I'm glad you came up with it. It wasn't coming to me. But and that's what it's doing. The computer's interpolating. It sees that exactly as you said, the item was on this pixel. Now it's over on this pixel, and it can interpolate that it must have gone through in between. And it just makes it look smoother to us. But it's kind of controversial because there's a lot of filmmakers and people in Hollywood who are up against this. I'm trying to remember there was even a video that they made about that with a bunch of famous people in it, telling you to please turn that feature off on your TVs because it is not giving you the look that the filmmaker intended it to have. It's making up fake frames in between the actual frames of the movie. And this is one of those things where people are really for or really against, and some people have some really strong feelings about it.
And as a rule of thumb, I think that if the Hollywood establishment is against it, I would probably be for it. That just seems they're like, they kind of lost me when they said that streaming services like Netflix and their movies don't count as, kind of theatrical releases, and they took steps to go against, kind of streaming. Their establishment is very against new technology for whatever reason, and I gotta say that this one, again, really just updating old footage and making it something that it isn't is something that's
yeah, I can see a use for it in that case, especially in cases of where the footage just looks so unnatural. And whatever you can do to try to make it more natural will help you see that content and understand that content better. I saw an old video of New York City streets, and the original is hard to watch, and it feels like you're watching not reality, but you're watching some sort of robotic ancient artifact thing. But then you see it, time corrected and color corrected, and you're like, wow, these are human beings walking around on the streets.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference in your capability of looking at that content and understanding it properly. But it's yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and of course I did receive your article about the movie directors who were saying that, and again, a movie that's shot this year, I kind of get it. It smooths out the motion. It's not shot in the native, let's say 24 frames, and even if you upscale it to, let's say 30 frames, yes, you are destroying, what it is that they shot. But I think updating what was back then a technical limitation and not an artistic choice, because hey, I bet you they would have loved to shoot in 60 frames per second and 4K. It's just that the cameras back in 1896, I think they were probably limited to 20 frames per second and 320p resolution.
Right. Yeah, so I think you're right. It's and there is that is a possibility, but a lot of people like that slower. Television usually runs at 29.97 or something like that here in the US. And 29.97 frames per second.
24 cinematic, 29 is
and it seems silly, 24 frames per second versus essentially 30 frames per second. But you can see that, and there are people who prefer that film look versus the TV look. That fewer frames per second gives a different feel to it, to the point where there are people who make YouTube videos and intentionally choose their frames per second to give it a cinematic type feel rather than a TV feel. So then to have the device choose for them, no, I know you wanted it to be 24, but I'm going to make it 60. I can see how some people would object to that, or at least want to make people aware that that's happening, because TVs are coming with that setting turned on by default, and people don't even realize it.
Well, and this is something that may actually solve itself in time. That was a trend that we saw at CES, and I'm trying to think. Have you been on since we were out at CES?
I don't think so.
Oh, well, hey, nice to talk to you again since we've been out at CES. And actually, let's see, you were scheduled for the January 22nd, but I don't think we talked then. So anyways, I did want to say, though, that was a trend that we saw from every TV manufacturer, that, kind of like what I said with, way back when about every switch can become a computer. People were asking me about CES 2020, what is the next big TV technology? Is it HDR? Is it 4K, 8K, whatever? And really, I think that the next big thing for televisions that people are really, that really it's going to make a difference in what TV that you get. It's this ability that they're going to have that, I guess, content providers, and be it the movie studios, be it Netflix, be it whatever, they're going to have individual settings embedded in whatever source that they're pulling the, let's say the movie from, and your TV is going to automatically pick those up, make the changes without you doing anything. Let's say that there's a Netflix show that says, we recommend this brightness, this contrast, this, blah, blah, blah. And it all changes automatically. And then hopefully that means the end result for the viewer is everything just looks perfect as the director intended the movie to look. You don't have to worry that, 300 million Americans out there, every one of their TVs is set to a different brightness. Every one of their TVs is set to a different contrast. Their screens are all different. that's going to be the next big thing in TV technology, is being able to change those settings automatically without interrupting anything, and everything just looks better. Like it doesn't actually change anything. It just makes everything look better natively.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be hard, I would think, to standardize that. There's so much difference now between one screen and another. You put, two different manufacturers, two different panels, two different resolutions.
They're working on it. Yeah.
Oh, they are working on it, and it's a problem that needs to be solved. I mean, it's not how important is it that it's the right color tone, but it's something that should be.
It's something that, like I said, it doesn't take a fundamental change. Like, it doesn't take you going out and buying, let's say, an 8K TV, and I would say even like the viewing quality of a 4K TV versus an 8K TV, there's probably diminishing returns there.
Right.
But
HDR is the bigger.
And you're right. Things like HDR and brightness and all these kinds of things. That's what's going to make the TV look better. It's not a fundamental technology shift. It's just every show, every movie, just everything on your TV is going to have personalized settings that are going to be just switched on. And that's going to make it look better.
The future is here, man. It's coming soon, at least.
And by the way, Mike, just real quick, can you hear the music?
I can indeed.
Oh, I've been messing with that for months. I'm happy I finally found the switch that finally made it work. So that's helpful for me. So everyone, if you want to find out more, of course, techguy.org, go there, make an account, or actually, I don't think you even need an account just to look around. Hey, if you have a problem, maybe someone else has had the exact same problem, and go there and find it. Mike, until next month, we'll get everything lined up. But again, everything going well for you?
Just doing great. Absolutely. Thanks very much for having me.
Our pleasure. So everyone, until next time, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Catch you next time.